Night shift workers, what's the creepiest thing you've witnessed? Working third shift as an EMT called to do welfare check with PD, we could see the guy's legs hanging over his bed through the bedroom window. Knocking, no movement at all, obvious dead body. We force the garage door into the kitchen. Soon as we do hit with the death smell, it's certain. All of a sudden we hear hysterical laughing. Chilled me to the bone. Who could be in this house with a body that smells that bad? PD drew guns from holsters, starts clearing the house, giving commands while the laughing continues. Turns out it was the dead guy's pet bird. Closing up a restaurant at midnight. Was mopping the dining area, turned around to rinse the mop, and looked out the window to see a 9 to 10 moose looking in the window back at me. I swear my heart stopped for a few seconds. Then it just walked off across the road. Night shift nurse. Lots of spooky things, but then one that always creeped me out was at the nursing home I used to work at. It had been an old mansion prior to it being turned into a facility, so it already had creepy Addams Family vibes. But it was just a thing where residents would see a little boy playing in their room before they died. I'd be giving meds or whatnot and they would look past me and point to nothing. Is that little boy yours? Why is that boy up so late? All of them would die within days of seeing him. Also pretty neat in a way. Driving an 8T-wheeler at night, I've had a couple of things happen. One night around midnight, after driving most of the day in heavy traffic near Murfreesboro, TN, I saw a lady in between lanes with a lacy white dress just blowing in the wind. I slammed on the brakes and missed a broken bag of concrete with the dust all in the air. I immediately found a place to park and went to bed. I used to work the late shift as classroom IT support for a college. Since night classes rarely had urgent issues, we spent most of our time handling repairs and maintenance that couldn't be done during the day. I'm fine with the dark, so I usually didn't bother turning on the lights if I just needed to do something quick on a computer. One night, around 10 p.m., I had a ticket to install software on the instructor's PC in a classroom I hadn't been to before. I headed in, the room dimly lit by the faint glow of hallway light spilling through the door. About halfway across the room, I stopped dead in my tracks. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, and this overwhelming feeling hit me. I was being watched. No, not just watched. I felt surrounded. My eyes slowly adjusted to the dark, and that's when I saw them. Hospital beds. Dozens of them lining the walls. And in each bed, there was a figure sitting up, staring straight at me. Holy shit. Oh, I'm sorry. I blurted out instinctively, heart pounding in my chest. Then, it freaking hit me that they weren't real. They were all just plastic dummies. I had wandered into a nursing classroom. I used to work the overnight shift at Walmart years ago, when it was open 247. One night, a girl who was stocking the aisle next to mine let out a blood-curdling scream. She found a cat's head on the shelf behind some canned goods. Just the head. She thought it was a stuffed toy or something and grabbed it. We called the police, but nothing ever came of it. Used to work in Vegas as a diver for the huge aquariums in one of the casinos. This tank happened to be close by to the entrance of a popular nightclub. We started our dives at 3 a.m., and let me tell you, nothing good happens at 3 a.m. in Vegas. I'm outside the tank, spotting my other diver, and see some paramedics roll up with a stretcher, and a little while later they bring this dude out of the club fully strapped down, and he is laughing like the damn Joker, with his eyes rolling up into his head. His face is covered in dozens and dozens of razor cuts. Honestly, there isn't much blood, but you just see these lines all over his face, and he is just losing his mind and laughing. It was so completely unnerving, and the rest of the area is just so silent, and all I can hear is my diver aircom and his laughing. I can only assume bad trip and/or psychosis, and Harris hoping the guy got the help he needed. His face was probably fucked for life. I used to work night shifts as a janitor at a small office building. One night around 2 a.m., I was mopping the hallway when I heard someone typing on a keyboard. It was weird because I was the only one there. I checked the office where the sound was coming from, and all the lights were off. I walked in and it stopped, but the chair at the desk was slowly spinning like someone had just been sitting there. I left my mop and didn't go back in. I finished my shift in the lobby. I was working in a 7-11 at night, and a man walked in obviously very high on something. He didn't acknowledge me and walked straight to where the beer is, and then turned and went around to the walk-in part of the fridge where the backstock is. As I went over to get him out, I saw his huge eyes peering at me through the fridge doors, and I hesitated for a second because he had this insane look on his face. I finally went to yell at him, and he grabbed a Corona bottle and smashed it like in the movies, pointed the shards of the bottleneck at me and said something in a different language I didn't recognize. There's a pretty wide variety of accents and languages where I lived, but this one was unusual and totally new to me. I immediately backed out and called the police while he kept breaking things in there, eventually gashing his upper arm somehow, and they tased him in the fridge. Lol. You'll never forget those eyes though. It sent a chill down my spine. He very well could have been thinking about killing me. Woman's prison guard here. I had just watched Smile, and the next night while I was in the mental health pod, an inmate was standing in a weird ballerina position with her right hand holding a water cup out from her body perfectly straight and with her head tilted, all while she has the biggest, creepiest smile on her face. She was standing in the exact center of her cell staring out. In 15 minutes when I walked by her again, she was just standing still smiling at the door. In 15 more minutes she was asleep in her bed. 15 more minutes and she is standing and saying over and over again that she wants to hurt me and that I should let her out. I had a blank, serious face for every encounter with her. Inside I was screaming and trying to not be a bitch. She has never done anything like that before or after with me. She usually raps about her reproductive system and its parts, or is talking to evil spirits and joking with them or fighting with them. I worked the night shift as a civil engineer on the Golden Gate Bridge suicide net. One night, after I finished an inspection in the south span around 1 a.m., I was driving my cart back on the sidewalk on the main span when I drove past one of the usual white inspector pickup trucks in the closure area. I stopped my cart after passing the truck and looked back, realizing it wasn't one of our official trucks. It was a civilian SUV, red, lights on, engine running, nobody inside. I went up to the car and immediately my stomach sank. Keys in ignition, phone on the dashboard, and a note on their seat. I called the bridge patrol immediately, but we had to harness up and search the inside of the bridge to make sure they hadn't climbed down there. We dropped a flare in the ocean so the Coast Guard could read the tides to search for the body, not sure if they ever found them. I think about that person, who was so racked with pain that they pulled over on the bridge, left their engine running, got out and jumped over the edge. 4 a.m. I was on my way across a parking lot to meet up a coworker. As I passed a building I hear a noise and look to my left. Not 5 meters from me there's a dude dressed in all black scaling the wall to an apartment, close to the balcony at the first floor. As soon as I looked in his direction he slid down the downspout. I just continued walking wherever I was supposed to go, as if it was just an ordinary Tuesday, hoping that whoever I saw didn't want no business with me unless I stepped in their way. Called the cops as soon as I met up with my coworker, one that my granddad told me, when he was about 1314, and it wasn't uncommon to leave school at a very young age to help support the family. He went to work down the local coal mines. One shift he was down in the depths alongside the older miner he was apprenticed to when a fellow miner went past, giving an acknowledging nod of his head as he went by. The only problem with this was that he knew the miner couldn't have been there because he'd been killed in a cave in a few weeks before. My granddad took off for the surface as fast as he could and didn't want to go back ever again. But money was tight and everyone had to work if the family was to eat, so back down the mine he went. 3 days later a huge slab in the ceiling of the shaft he was working in collapsed, killing the man my granddad was apprenticed to and trapping my granddad by the leg. He was down there in total darkness, stuck with the body of his senior worker for over 12 hours before they could free him and bring him up. He always swore that seeing the dead miner was his warning and that he should have found a way to not go back. His leg never did heal properly and was still a mess to the day he died. I used to work overnight shifts at a local restaurant, managing the drive-thru as well. There was this freaking bird that would coo directly into the drive-thru speaker, and it kept scaring the hell out of me until I finally figured out it was just a F-king bird. I work on an airfield. Driving a truck down the runway to inspect the lights when thick fog starts rolling in is pretty terrifying. You don't know where you are and you're flashing lights, so tower and pilots will notice you light the fog and make it even more disorienting. You're entirely dependent on the radio to make sure there's no planes heading towards you, and you're praying you're not about to cross into a restricted area you need tower's permission to enter. And if you're in an area that's got a decent deer population, good luck. I've had deer get spooked by my flashing lights and run into me. You can't see them because of the fog, and all of a sudden wham, something big hits the side of your truck. Police calling about a 911 hang-up call from the location I was at. I was there alone. I was live on site security at a construction site. One night a very sexy girl in a short skirt came to the game. She said hi and wanted to talk. It killed me to walk away, but that meant someone was on site trespassing to steal material. I'm not good looking enough that girls want my attention. I have the kind of look that a sexy girl can sucker me. I worked as night shift auditor front desk alone all night 5 nights a week at the Green Park Inn in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Feel free to Google the hotel. So it's 3 a.m. I'm sitting at the desk bored out of my mind and ready to go home when the front door opens slowly and then closes back. No one is there. I already knew the stories from the hotel and its history, so I'm a little uneasy, but hey, it could have been the wind, I guess. About 20 minutes go by, and I get a call from a guest asking why someone is playing the piano in the reception room directly below her room at this hour of night. so I have to go to the reception room to see what is going on. And as I get closer I clearly hear the piano playing. I'm thinking maybe we have an intoxicated guest or maybe an older guest with dementia. Right as I get ready to open the door to the reception room, the music stops. No one was in there. The last 2 hours of my shift seemed to go on forever. I worked at a 7-11 years ago and was filling in for someone on the overnight shift. Guy pulls up in a taxi, hammered. Only me and him in the store. As he's looking over the beer options, he says to his friend on the other end of his flip phone, "I gotta rob this 7-11 now. I don't even have any money to pay for the cab. I don't really have a choice." I started weighing my options in the eternity it took him to browse. I was looking for a stick or pipe to crack him with. He was quite drunk. Then I thought, smash a glass coffee pot over his head. Nah, this isn't the cartoons. Fuck, what do I do? I remembered I had the cell number of a cop that worked that area and text him. He said he was working and on his way. Longest wait ever as I left him inside and pretended to sweep up anything but be near the counter. Cop came in, grabbed the guy, and he had a loaded revolver on him. Bullets dodged successfully. Wasn't on night shift, but needed to take care of business in the middle of the night on safari in Africa. Needed an urgent crap, grabbed shovel, torch and bog roll. Headed out to the designated hole. Had my torch in red light mode as I was doing my business, and saw eye shine in the tree line about 15 m away. Switched to white light and it was a bloody leopard. Never been so happy to already have my pants down as I finished crapping myself. Thankfully the leopard shed itself as well and took off. He'll never forget the moment of realization as my brain went from "I wonder what that is" to "wow, that's a leopard" to "oh fuck, that's a leopard."